Everyone is, wanting to know what it's all about. But football, it's a simple game, and so the people here is successful because they're simple in the thought, and there's more common sense here than at any other club.
The secret of Liverpool's success by the man who should know. Bob Paisley has been clocking it at Anfield every morning for over 40 years now. Take care of the little things, and the big things will take care of themselves. That's been his policy, and he's not done too badly by it, has he? But what are those little things that make Liverpool so special? This fan club record gives you a unique insight into the behind-the-scenes routines that make Anfield tick. A story that begins in Kenny Dalglish's bedroom.
They'll get up probably about 8:30, 8:45, and take my little girl to school, then take my little boy to school, come back, have a cup of tea, and usually there's either Matt Lawrenson or Alan Hansen or myself. We take turns about driving each other into training, getting about 10 o'clock, start getting ready for training. Then we're going to coach about 5-7 minutes down to Melwood and start training there, and we'll be there for about an hour and a half, back in the coach, back up the ground, cleaned, lift up your letters and sort out any tickets you've got to sort out, and home really.
So the players have completed their preparations for Saturday's game by Friday lunchtime. What happens then? Mark Lawrenson, how do you spend those last anxious hours?
Well, actually, Clive, we probably won't meet until 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. We'll all go home and pack our overnight bags and meet 4 o'clock on the Friday. And wherever we're travelling, obviously, if we're travelling to London, we'll probably have a meal sort of on the train on the way down to London. Then we're getting to London, say, 8 o'clock at night. And it's just a matter of checking into the rooms then and getting your feet up and watching the television.
Do you get a room to yourself?
No, we always room with one of the other players. I room with Phil Neal, and he's taken me under his wing since I've been here. And but I've got to do all the odd jobs for him and clean his shoes and one thing or another. But we room with each other probably to save us from getting bored as much as anything.
And what time do you get up on a Saturday morning before a 3 o'clock kick-off?
Well, it varies. Players are different. Some like to sleep until 11, maybe 12 o'clock. I always wake early. I mean, I'll be up and about 8:30. So obviously there's no chance of Phil being asleep because I get up and get the papers in and we read the papers and probably have breakfast about 9 o'clock. And probably about 11 o'clock we get a knock from Ronnie Whelan. Comes into the room and makes sure we're awake and turns all the lights on and opens all the windows and everything. So there's no way you can sleep. And I go down and have something very, very light to eat, maybe a steak, maybe some toast, maybe some eggs, something like that. Obviously, we can't have things like chips and we don't have vegetables, but, some have chicken, some have eggs, some have nothing. People find it's easy to play without anything inside them. Everyone's different. And then we get up from the lunch table about 12:15 maybe, and come back upstairs and watch the 2 football previews on BBC and ITV.
So it's on to the team coach and off to the ground. Bruce Grobbelaar takes up the story.
Well, everybody will be very tense, and there won't be a lot of noise like normal. Everybody be quiet, looking out the windows and thinking about the game. No laughs, no cards, nothing really.
What does it mean when you see the Liverpool supporters when you approach, particularly in a away ground?
Well, especially Wembley, because we're so tense. To see the red fans and them shouting at the coaches, just gets the boys going, and that's when they start talking and chatting and making a bit of a joke and that.
Now, what time do you actually start to get changed for a 3 o'clock kick-off?
Well, I usually, myself personally, I get changed about 45 minutes before. It's like a slow process, and I've got a few little things that I do, superstition-wise. You might call it superstition, you might just call it routine. And such as my jacket comes off first, and then the jewellery, and each piece of my jewellery I kiss once and put it into a left-hand pocket of my jacket. Never the right, never the inside, nothing, it's just in the left-hand pocket. And then the rest of the gear comes off, and I sit contemplating whether to put on my trousers and shorts next. And when I've got my shorts and socks and boots on, off to the throne, and you sit on the throne for a while.
Is there anybody who gets changed particularly late?
There's only one really, is Graham Souness. If he's got people to see, he comes in late, and I think he's about the last to get his suit off or his civilian clothes off.
Shortly after 2:50, the players are summoned from the dressing room and the moment of truth has arrived. Alan Hansen, what actually happens at that moment? Does the referee come for you?
No, the linesman actually used to come and check your studs, but they've stopped that rule for some reason, and now it's just whenever the lads sort of want to go out.
Now, in the Anfield Tunnel, there's this famous sign which Bill Shankly had installed there.
The first game I played at Anfield, I'd heard about this, and I'd seen everybody, touching it, and I put my 2 hands up and started touching it. I've did it ever since, and I wouldn't go out into the pitch now without touching it. I'm not so superstitious in the least, but when you see the sign, "This is Anfield," I wouldn't say it gives you a feeling of superiority over everybody else, but I think it gives you a bit of a lift.
And the feeling a few steps later when you get out into the daylight?
Really relief to get onto the pitch, especially if it's a full house. You can't beat having a full house at Anfield. I mean, if you go out and there's maybe 15 to 20,000 supporters, then it tends to be a bit different. But if there's a full house, especially on Derby Day, going out into the pitch is something different. And the first time I went into the pitch in Derby Day, I just could not believe it, and because you just could not hear yourself even think. And it really is a bit special. It's worth playing football for.
Forward to David Johnson. Hansen again doing well. Gets it away from Johnson and McMahon. Good run this by Hansen. Ian Rush with a real chance, and it's there! Ian Rush, with 10 minutes gone, puts Liverpool in front. A goal beautifully created by Alan Hansen. And first blood to the Reds down at the Gladys Street end of the field. So another Saturday, another 3 points more than likely, and for half a dozen of the Liverpool players maybe, off to join up with the international team. Different surroundings, different teammates, but how does the routine differ? England's Phil Neal.
For a start, we meet up on a Sunday, Clive, usually have an evening meal together, and then usually start training Monday morning, and we usually build up the training until the game usually on the Wednesday.
Is the training very different from Anfield?
Yeah, well, obviously it is a bit more concentrated with England, because it's bringing in kind of 22 strangers who play with their clubs each week, and trying to build a team game round strange people, really, so to speak, because obviously kind of getting together sometimes every 2 or 3 months, it's very difficult to get any understanding going.
Do you miss Anfield when you're away?
I say it all depends. Some ways the spirit is much the same in the England camp, and but it's also nice to come back home.
To play for your country is the ultimate ambition of every footballer, but it's a long way from young hopeful to international regular. Sammy Lee has gone all the way, but where did it all start for him?
Well, I actually started training at Everton in my early days of my schoolboy football, but the school was a very strict school, and they prevented me from going to Everton training and told me to concern myself with my academics rather than get concentrated on football.
That's a fairly good policy for any youngster to follow, I would think.
Well, yes, plus the fact that the school also had good facilities itself for football. So they wanted me rather, as I say, to concentrate on the schooling rather than be involved in the world of football at such an early age.
So having got your O-levels, is that when Liverpool came for you?
Well, actually, I never got my O-levels. That's why I had to sign for Liverpool, because I really wanted to stay on school, but I never achieved enough O-levels to stay on school. So Liverpool came in and asked me, really it was a lifesaver, really, because at that moment I was really low.
And what would you say to a youngster who's been told he's too small for football?
Start growing. No, I don't think size, to your mates, but I don't think size matters all that much. Well, I hope not anyway, because otherwise I'm going to fail badly.
Those lucky enough to get their chance at Anfield have to serve an apprenticeship. Ian Rush was a proven goal scorer for whom Chester were paid £300,000, but he had to wait a while for a call to first-team service. Ian, what do you remember about those early days at Liverpool?
Yeah, I know. I always remember when they bought me from Chester, and I knew I'd be in reserves for a few years, so I had to, everyone at Liverpool really, I think, has to serve an apprenticeship, so I was quite prepared to put up with this.
What do you learn in the reserves?
I think you just learn the same as first team football, really, same sort, and they play the same pattern of play, and just moulding, to put pressure on the first team players, I think.
There was a time during your spell in the reserves when you stopped scoring goals.
Yeah, I think it was my first season there. I only scored about 12 or 13 goals there, and I wasn't very happy with my form, really, and I don't think Liverpool were really. So at the end of the season, I just went in to see the manager and asked him what he thought, and he told me that I wasn't being more selfish. I should be more selfish, and I think from that meeting, really, I went out there and I was more selfish, and as the goal started coming.
But how did you get noticed in the first place? Ronnie Whelan was playing amateur football near Dublin when Liverpool got a tip-off. When were you aware that they were first watching you, Ron?
It wasn't until I was about to sign for Celtic that I first heard about Liverpool. I'd been to Celtic for a week and was very interested in signing for them. But then I found out Liverpool were interested and they wanted me to come over for a trial, so I decided to come over.
Do they have people watching players even somewhere like Dublin?
I think they've got someone, you know, in most places. I didn't know who it was who really put Liverpool onto me, or put me onto Liverpool. But I just jumped at the chance when I heard they were interested.
And what age were you when you were aware that any of the big clubs were watching you?
I was 14 when I started to go to Man United. So I was around 14 when I was first went away.
Well, you mentioned Liverpool and Manchester United and Celtic. What made you mind up in the end for Anfield?
Because it's Liverpool, really. You know, they've won so many things over the year. I always thought it would be a great club if I did ever make the first team. And since I have done, it's absolutely brilliant.
Shot, blocked by his former Celtic teammate Lou Macari. Kennedy into Whelan, chipped in with the right foot. He's done it again. Ronnie Whelan is the extra time hero. A brilliant goal with his right foot, curled in past Gary Bailey. And Ronnie Whelan, who did it 12 months ago against Tottenham Hotspur, has surely won the Milk Cup again for Liverpool. And Bob Paisley in his retirement season holds aloft the Milk Cup. What a marvellous moment. And the players just stand back and applaud. The Liverpool players hold their ground and applaud. Graham Souness now collects his medal. For the moment belongs to the most successful manager in the history of British football, Bob Paisley.
There's no magic about it. We're not gifted with anything. We couldn't make footballers out of nothing. But we like to think when we do get some with a little bit of potential, we can encourage them in our own little way, that he won't get complicated, but all the details of fitness and everything he'll be fully aware of by the time he's left here, if he has to go on that, and or if he goes through. And it's that routine and thought that's given to everything that we do, and it's so simple, it doesn't bear thinking about.
What are you going to miss most?
Well, I don't know, it's like a drug. I won't enjoy it. I'll miss the tension of a big game, that's for sure. And I don't think there's any substitute for that. I haven't got a clue what I'll do, but that's what I'll miss most, the real that you're involved in that. And I like to think I've been involved with it right through my career, both as a player, a trainer, a coach, and assistant manager and manager. I haven't been out of it really for 40 years and that.